The five main Nordic countries are Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Iceland. They're all really advanced, rich, and well-connected countries. Even though each country is different, they all have some things in common that make them work well together. Together, they make a lot of money, more than $1.8 trillion, and there are about 27 million people living there. This makes the Nordics really interesting to a lot of companies in the United States. Norway is a modern, energy-rich country with a population of 5.5 million. It is recognized as one of the wealthiest countries globally, boasting a high GDP per capita of $106,148. Incomes in Norway are relatively evenly distributed among its population. This means that a significant portion of the population has access to a comfortable standard of living, enabling them to participate actively in the economy as consumers. Essentially, this equitable distribution of income ensures that almost every individual in Norway has the means to contribute to the economy by purchasing goods and services, thus driving economic activity and growth. Norway is located in northern Europe and shares its longest border with Sweden to the east. In the northernmost region, it is bordered by Finland to the south and Russia to the east. It also boasts an extensive coastline along the North Atlantic Ocean and the Barents Sea, covering an area of 323,802 square kilometers. But guess what? There aren't many people living there compared to other places in Europe. Norway's economy is like a superhero with a bunch of cool powers. It's flexible, which means it can adapt easily, and it has strong rules to protect people's stuff and make sure things are fair. The laws are good and help everything run smoothly. Plus, Norway likes to make friends all over the world and trade with them. It's really smart about how it does things, which keeps its economy strong and makes it a great place for new ideas and businesses to grow. In 1842, when Norway made its money worth its weight in silver, things started getting really good for the country. For about 30 years, until the mid-1870s, Norway's economy grew a lot, even more than in most other places. This growth happened mainly because farmers were producing more and better crops, and because Norway was selling lots of stuff to other countries. Between 1835 and 1910, farming in Norway got way more efficient because farmers started using new methods and tools. They also changed from mostly growing crops to raising animals, like cows and sheep. This made them way more productive. They could do a lot more work. Norway also got really good at selling stuff to other countries. People wanted Norway's timber, fish, and especially its maritime services, like shipping. Norway's ships were everywhere, carrying stuff around the world for cheap prices. By 1875, about 7% of all the ships in the world. They were like the superheroes of shipping. First, world trade became more free, so it was easier for Norway to sell its stuff abroad. Plus, lots of other countries wanted what Norway had to offer. These things made Norway's products and services really valuable in the global market. From 1843 to 1876, Norway's money per person grew by 1.6% every year, which was better than most other countries in Europe. Basically, it was getting richer faster than its neighbors. During this time, it was also selling more and more stuff to other countries. Every year, the amount of stuff they sold abroad grew by 4.8%. That's a lot. In the 1840s, Norway started making things in big factories for the first time. They started with textiles and machines to help make things faster. Then, in the 1860s and 1870s, they had another burst of growth in factories. As farming got more efficient, Norway started making more food and dairy products too. These industries grew really fast during this time. So, it wasn't just good at selling fish and timber, they were also making lots of other things to sell to the world. During this big boom, Norway got a lot of money from other countries, mostly from Britain, but they also got some from Sweden, Denmark, and Germany. Those were Norway's top trading buddies back then. Way back in 1536, the King of Denmark and Norway decided that everyone in Norway should follow the Lutheran religion. This meant that people had to learn how to read, which was a big deal. Because of this, lots of people became really good at different jobs and could work independently. So when the boom happened, Norway had a bunch of smart and skilled workers ready to get things done. In 1814, Constitution helped make the country more about freedom and democracy. During the 1800s, there were these movements called Puritan revivals that emphasized hard work and being serious about life. This made people more interested in starting their own businesses and saving money. Even today, in the western and southern parts of Norway, these ideas are still important, both in how people live their lives and how they run their businesses. So you could say that these old traditions still have a big impact on Norway today. Norway's economy went through a really tough time from the mid-1870 to the early 1890. Things weren't growing like they used to, and prices for goods fell until 1896. It was so hard that lots of people decided to leave Norway and move to North America for a better life. In 1882, the most people ever left, almost 29,000, which was about 1.5% of the whole population. In total, from 1879 to 1893, about 250,000 people left, which was a lot. It's like 60% of all the babies born during that time. Another reason for Norway's economic troubles in the 1880s was the change from using sailing ships to steam-powered ships. By 1875, Norway had the fourth largest fleet of merchant ships in the world, but switching to steamships was expensive and required new skills. So, ship owners couldn't make the switch quickly. Instead, they found a temporary solution by buying cheaper, used sailing ships. But over time, fewer people wanted these old ships, and the market for them got smaller. Eventually, in 1907, a fleet of steamships became bigger than its fleet of sailing ships. This marked the end of reign as a major maritime power. After gaining full independence from Sweden in 1905, Norway experienced a big wave of industrialization. In the 1890s, industries like fish preserving and making cellulose and paper started growing really fast. Then, in 1905, a company called Norsk Hydro was set up, and it kick-started the manufacturing industry by using hydroelectric power. Many people think that the most important period for Norway's industrial growth was from 1905 to 1920. But even with all this new industry, farming and fishing were still the biggest parts of Norway's economy. They used a lot of people to work the land and catch fish, and they were starting to use more machines and technology too. In May 1963, Norway said, "Hey, we have the right to control the natural stuff under our part of the North Sea." They started looking for oil on July 19, 1966, with a big drilling machine called Ocean Traveler. Then, in 1967, they found some oil at a place called the Balder oil field, about 190 kilometers west of Stavanger. At first, they didn't find much, but then on August 21, 1969, another drilling machine called Ocean Viking struck oil. By the end of that year, they realized there was a lot of oil and gas under the North Sea. The first big oil field they found was called Ekofisk, and in 1980, it produced a huge amount of oil. Since then, they'd found a lot of natural gas too. So, Norway's been able to get a lot of valuable stuff from under the sea. When Norway decided not to join the European Union, the Ministry of Industry, led by Olaus Jack Brake, got busy creating a plan for the country's energy. They made sure Norway didn't join OPEC, a group of oil-producing countries, and decided to keep their energy prices similar to the rest of the world. They also wanted to spend the money they made from oil wisely, calling it the currency gift. When they sell oil to other countries, Norway taxes it at a high rate, 78% to be exact. This money helps pay for things the country needs, like schools and hospitals. The North Sea posed a lot of tricky problems for companies trying to get oil and gas out of it, so Norwegian companies had to get really good at solving these challenges. Some engineering and construction companies popped up, using the skills left over from the shipbuilding industry. This created hubs of expertise in places like Stavanger and the western parts of Oslo. Since Norway became an independent country in 1814, its economy has grown a lot, just like its neighboring countries.